lost Tyler. Hey there. Hey, Hawkeye fans. This is Chad Leistikow of the Des Moines Register, Tyler Tachman of the Des Moines Register, Dargan Southern. We are not live from Kinnick Stadium, as Dargan just wrote in the description. As you can see behind us, this is not the north end zone. But Tyler and I were at Kinnick today for the open practice, the Kids Day scrimmage. A lot of anticipation for this one, Tyler, especially at quarterback, but a lot of observations to make today. Just in general, what were your what was your your biggest takeaway out of what you saw today? Different from media day, but just what you saw today.
First thing is that the passing game, it looked better. Like it looked like the passes downfield were more natural than they've been the last two seasons. And I think that's kind of what people were hoping to see. And again, this is a small sample size, but between Mark Gronowski, Hank Brown, Jeremy Hecklinski, it looked like there was more potential to have those explosive passing plays. It just looked easier because the last two seasons, Iowa has made passing the ball look so difficult where it just looks like it's a real struggle to even get any type of momentum. And it looked better today, I would say. Now, so here's the other end of things. Ball security was not the best. Mark Gronowski, there were two shotgun snaps that he mishandled. He recovered both of them, but they were pretty routine. And he also at another point threw what had likely been a pick six to Cohen Entringer. And so those were, I think Mark Gronowski there were some highlights and there were some lowlights. And I think in general, I feel good about what we saw passing the ball just because I think there were enough flashes there. And I think some of the other stuff is you can clean up at this point. But so there was good and bad. I think in general, though, I felt pretty good about where the passing game was at.
Yeah, maybe my expectations were too high, but I didn't think he looked that great. Gronowski, I thought he was fine. Choppy is kind of the word I used. I agree. I mean, you can't have those turnovers. You can't have the botched handoff with Jazzy and Patterson. Might have been Patterson's fault. It's hard to say. But yeah, and I mean the snaps though. I mean Logan Jones, had a couple bad snaps. I mean that's on the center. You asked Kirk Ferentz about that afterwards. He said that happens every year at this time. We'll get those cleaned up. So he didn't seem too concerned about that. He also said, I'm on the train. I'm all aboard basically on Mark Gronowski. They're seeing him progress each and every day and get better and better. But still, I did want to see a little bit more. I'll give him a ton of credit. I mean, if you look at Cade McNamara's performance last year, 8 for 24 for 20 yards. This was much better. I had Gronowski unofficially 10 for 20 for 134 yards. I gave him the pick six. I mean, that would have been a pick six for Cohen entering. There's nobody that would have caught him. He was blazing down the field, and he did go all the way. So 81-yard pick six on he probably shouldn't have thrown that screen pass. And the screen passes were not good today. Like all across the board, like screens did not work. But you can't judge the whole camp off one practice, and I feel like the feedback we got from Tim Lester, from everybody else at Media Day a day earlier about how Gronowski had been performing was really, really good. And so, in general, yes, they're way better than they were, last year, 2 years ago, for sure, by a mile. But still, I'm not ready to say that I was just going to be slicing and dicing defenses this fall.
There was one throw Mark Gronowski had to Seth Anderson. That was a real deep ball. It was a really beautiful throw and catch. Seth Anderson brought it in. He was someone who I thought really stood out receiving wise as having a really good day. But there was also some throws Mark Gronowski had where it seemed like he was trying to throw it in a really tight window and it just wasn't quite there all the way. So there's obviously some timing things that are still kind of working themselves out. I thought Hank Brown looked really good. And now the caveat here is Hank Brown mostly went against twos compared to Mark Gronowski, who was mostly going against the first team defense. But Hank Brown, he made some really good throws. He looked pretty calm and collected in the pocket. I thought, he didn't have as many highs, but I also don't think he had as many lows as Mark Gronowski. He was steadier than Mark Gronowski. But I was encouraged by what we saw from him. I think there was definitely growth from he was someone that we actually saw during the spring open practice, and I definitely think that there was growth from the spring to now. So he looked pretty composed. I was impressed with some of the throws that he was making, and he a couple times, at least to Dayton Howard, that he made nice throws.
And that's the backup quarterback situation does seem to be in a much healthier place. Yeah, I'm with you. I thought Hank Brown looked really smooth out there. The red zone period, which didn't count towards the stats that I kept. What did I have him at? What did I have Brown? Can you tell me? I sent you the Brown stats. He was kind of
Yeah,
like 6 for 10 for 46 yards, if I recall correctly, something like that. But that didn't count some of the red zone stuff, and he was victimized by at least one significant drop by Caden Weechin. But yeah, the red zone throw right away to Reese Vanderzee was really impressive. And then the very next play, he throws a touchdown pass to the other side of the field to Jacob Gill. You can't forget about him. I agree with Brown. And then the Heklinski buzz. I mean, we were just wanting to see him. I mean, here's this small quarterback that reminds you of Drew Tate if you're an old time Hawkeye fan. And he's got that gunslinger to him. He even called himself, he said, some people call me a gunslinger. I'm just a quarterback that can make throws. He's a confident young kid from Wake Forest. He's got that, Kirk Ferentz said he's got that moxie, maybe a little swagger. I liked what I saw. He's just still very new, but it's clear that Iowa likes what they see from Brown and Heklinski, and they have been getting pretty much the majority of the 1, 2, 3 reps. I mean, those other guys, Jackson Stratton, we talked about him. Well, we wrote about him. His health took a little bit of a downturn. You talked to him a little bit. You can give an update there. And then Jimmy Sullivan and Ryan Fitzgerald, obviously still very, very new. We got to see them today too, but clearly there's a top 3 here with those two guys, Brown and Heklinski, battling for the number 2 spot.
Heklinski just looked like super confident and comfortable, I thought. And it's not difficult to see how he threw for more than 3,800 yards as a senior in high school. Like the arm talent is there. He obviously can sling it, and he seems like he's further along in his development process than your normal redshirt freshman. And that's part of what makes this so compelling, is that he's still so young. He has 4 seasons of eligibility left. So it wasn't perfect by any means, but he showed some good stuff, I thought, as well too. So you have your kind of top 1, 2, 3 guys that I think from top to bottom is in a much better place than Iowa was at last season and in the year before. And as far as Jackson Stratton, we saw a little bit of him. It sounded like he's on the mend. He's doing better now, kind of on his way back, but had been hampered by a health issue and lost some weight. So, but it seems like he's kind of, tracking back in the right direction. And to have him as and it seemed like maybe Jimmy Sullivan might be the 4th option right now, just because Jackson Stratton, with the health issue. But whoever that 4 is, like if Jackson Stratton ends up being the 4, like that's not a bad number 4 option to have as someone who has starting experience. So I think in general, it's not perfect. There was definitely some flaws, most definitely in the ball security aspect of things, but I thought there was some good things from Iowa's quarterbacks.
Yeah, definitely an encouraging start to fall camp for the quarterback position, which is really important. We've stressed that. You guys have lived this the last 2 years, especially, but really since Nate Stanley left in 2019. You guys you Hawkeye fans out there have been dealing with uncertain and shaky quarterback play, and it feels like we're not there yet. Again, I thought Gronowski was choppy. But it feels like this whole room we've seen it with our eyes now, that has been elevated. How good can it get though against this schedule? Some of the other big takeaways I think from media day and today would be, running back was kind of interesting today because Kamari Moulton and TJ Washington, probably the 2 guys I expect to be 1, 2 at that position, were not participating. It didn't seem like anything serious. Nothing. Didn't seem like it anyway. Saw Kamari walking just fine. Um, but that opened the door for who was going to be the running back of the day, Tyler. And there was no question who got the bulk of the carries and who looked the best out there. And it was probably not the person that people would expect.
Yeah, Nathan McNeil, true freshman. He was someone in the spring that we were talking about a little bit, and I thought he looked really good. For what it's worth, I asked Kamari Moten on the sideline, like, are you doing okay? And he didn't seem concerned. Not that he would like unveil some like grand injury to me right there, but he seemed like he was doing okay. But I thought, Jazzy and Patterson, I thought looked fine. Yeah, but Nathan McNeil looked good. I thought Xavier Williams looked pretty good as well. And another, I guess, one of the big things that's come out of media days and kids days, the TJ Hall news that he's dealing with a bone bruise, and Kirk Ferentz didn't seem concerned with it. You asked him about it today, but so on one hand, obviously that's a position group that's kind of under a microscope entering the season, and you're losing one of the guys that's one of the, definitely a leading candidate to be one of your starters. So on one hand, that's not a great thing. On the other hand, if you look at it glass half full, like that's going to give some other guys a chance in fall camp to really compete and get reps. So the guy that was at least a majority of the time was Deshaun Lee and Rashad Godfrey with the first team, and then second team Alex Moda and Jalen Watson was in there. He's been held back by a soft tissue injury, but he's getting back into it and was obviously out there today. So cornerback, that was some of the other, I guess, kind of notable development. There's time for TJ Hall. 1 to 2 weeks was the expectation that if he's able to come back by then, you would think he'd be ready for the first game, but injuries aren't an exact science. But hopefully for Iowa's sake, they can get him back, and if not, you have a handful of guys behind him they're going to be vying for that playing time.
Yeah. Hey, if Ferentz says he's not concerned, I mean that he's on the record with that. Usually he'll say, we'll see if there is maybe some uncertainty there, but I don't know. I mean, it didn't look like he was walking too great to me, but I've had a bone bruise injury before. Anyone who has knows that those can be tricky, not predictable, and they're very painful. And so, but anyway, Ferentz says he'll be okay. So, you got to have him for week 2 against Iowa State. You prefer to have him week 1 against Albany. The 1 to 2 week time frame that he gave, encouraging, but again, we'll have to see. Did you mention who was starting without him? I can't remember.
Yes,
I was tweeting something.
Yeah,
okay, good.
I did.
I would say no cornerbacks really stood out, without Hall. I mean, Deshaun Lee, is obviously the one with the most experience. And then, but again, Reese Vanderzee has had Deshaun Lee's number this week, it appears, Tyler. In the highlight videos, and then again today, he catches a 33-yarder from Gronowski against coverage from Lee. So, I don't know. I mean, it's the second that position is going to be a concern until it's solved.
Yeah, I think the defensive back that probably looked the best was Cohen Entringer, and we mentioned him about having the pick 6. He also had another big hit. I thought Carson Shire at linebacker, I thought he looked good. That's another one of those question marks, linebacker trying to replace Jay Higgins and Nick Jackson. But I thought Carson Shire looked pretty good. I wouldn't say there was like a ton of standouts defensively, just off the top of my head. Another notable thing, Yosei Epinesa was with the second team. And I actually thought, maybe to backtrack on that a little bit defensively, I thought the defensive line looked really good. I thought, I think they're deep. It looked like Brian Allen was playing both in the interior and on the outside. So maybe he's someone that kind of has that versatility to play both ways. But then you have Aaron Graves on the inside, Jonah Pace, Bryce Hawthorne, and then Max Llewellyn and Ethan Herkin on the outside. I think, given that now we know like Iowa's offensive line should be pretty good, you would expect entering the season. you're able to kind of gauge, okay, how does the defensive line look against what should be a good offensive line? And I thought the defensive line looked really good. I feel most confident about that position group defensively entering the season, maybe outside of Entringer,
I agree.
Letmer, Xavier Wampa. But I think Iowa's defensive line could be legit this season.
Yeah, if you separate safety slash cash from corner, then I would say safety slash cash would be my favorite position group or most reliable, most confident. But if you just say secondary, then I'm going to say, yeah, defensive line for me, number one. Linebacker, I totally agree. And one of the coaches kind of told me that, wow, was really high on what Carson Shire did today. And so he seems like he's really entrenched at that weak side linebacker spot. Didn't see a ton from Harrell today. I didn't feel like they were rotating guys in there. Van Kekricks was in there. Montgomery was in there. Rex Roth was in there at weak side linebacker too. Seth Wallace gave a lot of guys time. I mean, you got deeper into the depth chart, and I think there was a Buffington Reese combo at one point. Burt Goucher was out there at one point, so he had a lot of guys rotating in there, and that was, I would say, one of the media day takes that I had from my conversation with Seth Wallace was just how real the competition is behind Harrell and Shire, and I feel like that fire is probably a good thing for those guys because it's not like there's a huge gulf between their performance and what they're seeing in practice from the other guys. So if Harrell and or Shire don't perform, or Rex Roth, there's guys there ready to take their spots, and they maybe haven't had that kind of depth, just ready-made depth in the past. Now, I mean, ready-made could be a strong word, but I mean, you got to feel really good about the depth at linebacker. And Tyler, I know you haven't read my column yet because it just came out, but the top of it was, well, you're going to love it. No, I'm just kidding. But the top of it was, and I think we can probably agree on this, I'm thinking, is like, just if you go every position, like, just think how much deeper it seems like they are than they have been in the past. Quarterbacks, offensive line, George Barnett thinks this is like the deepest line he's had. He's finally got it where he wants it. Receivers, we know that, right? It's first time in a long time they've had a lot of options there. Running back, last year you had the star. This year you've got the depth. Even, the Yosei Epinesa conversation, Kelvin Bell, I was over with him for about 10 minutes yesterday, and I asked him about Yosei. I was like, how does he get on the field like AJ did? Because AJ was the number 3 defensive end as a true freshman on that team with Anthony Nelson and Parker Hesse. And he was like, well, no offense to the team. I don't want to slight the team back in 2017, but we just didn't have the depth that we do now. Like, they've got Llewellyn, Hurkett, Brian Allen, Kenneth Merriweather, Joseph Anderson. There's a lot of Chima Chineke who didn't participate today. There's a lot of guys out there, so that part's deep. Defensive tackle we were worried about. Well, here comes Bryce Hawthorne and Jonah Pace. Linebacker's good. I would say that secondary is probably the one where maybe you'd like to see more depth, but there's a million options at cornerback. So, and we were even studying the long snapper competition earlier today, Tyler. We were early on. We were comparing the two. So there's a lot of depth on this team. I don't know if there's a star, but there's a ton of depth.
A few other miscellaneous observations I had from today. This was the first time we kind of got to see Sam Phillips like really moving around. The wide receiver transfer from Chattanooga, has a ton of experience. Smaller guy, but really fast. He didn't do a whole lot in the actual live kind of scrimmage setting, but just watching him go through like running routes, they're very crisp routes. He is very quick. To me, when you watched kind of the wide receivers go one by one in their routes, like he was one that stood out because he just super quick twitch. Another thing we've talked about, so Cohen Entringer was one of Iowa's 3-player representatives at Big Ten Media Days. That's something we talked about. He's a guy that started one game in his Iowa career, and we're like, okay, so like there's obviously something there in terms of how his teammates view him. I saw that in action. There was I don't know the specifics of what happened, but Cohen Entringer was on the sideline. and Alex Moda did something or didn't do something, and Cohen Entringer got up right in his face, pulled him in, and was barking at him pretty passionately. So whatever it was, I don't know the specifics, but that was like to me a real indication of like, okay, this is a guy that is a vocal leader, and he is like trying to help out a younger guy who is also a defensive back. And then the third was something kind of funny where Hank Brown had a really nice pass to Seth Anderson. It was difficult to tell whether he he would have had possession. It was like kind of really close to the sideline, but he ends up going flying into the sideline, takes Phil Parker out, and Phil Parker got up. It appeared he was fine, but just Phil Parker was on the wrong end of Seth Anderson going flying into the sideline. So that was that was something I wasn't expecting. And if you think back to about this time last year, that's when Phil Parker was in the sling. So
I
it's
know.
so
Yeah.
it's a good thing that he was in the sling for this time around.
Oh man. So we always get this 2-day thing. It's every year. Media day, boom, late afternoon Friday, kids day Saturday morning. Um, and this is it. It's like the mad rush of information. So we're trying to process a lot and get it out to you as much as we can. But like, was there anything else from media day, Tyler, that you felt like jumped out that maybe doesn't even relate to kids day, or just something that um, you know interested you or stuck out to you from media day, which was all? I mean, that's like a 3-hour bonanza of you're trying to just gather your thoughts, and I haven't even made it through half my interviews yet. So I mean, transcribing wise, so a lot to process here in the coming weeks. But anything else you took away there?
It just seems like that left tackle spot is still kind of, I would say, up for grabs. It doesn't seem like there's certainty there. That's something that it seems like we're tracking, and I I guess that would be kind of one of my biggest
Yeah,
takeaways. And
I'll be
it's
writing about that. Don't you guys worry.
well, it's just
I'll have it solved for you soon.
yeah, no, I think it just cemented that there's still with this team, there's a lot of uncertainty in terms of
Right.
like there's a big pool of guys who could be factors, but we don't know yet. We don't know who's going to be the starter. It was just it's a contrast to last season, especially defensively, where you had all these guys coming back. You knew that Sebastian Castro was going to be back there, Jay Higgins. You knew who the major factors were going to be, and I'm not sure if I can tell you defensively like more than I can't tell you who's going to be Iowa's best linebacker or like who's going to be Iowa's best defensive back or maybe it's a good thing that a good problem to have that I can't tell you who's going to be Iowa's best like safety or cash, but there's just a lot more unknown I feel like at this
Yeah.
point, and where it's going to be these next couple of weeks are going to be really crucial for Iowa to continue to develop and for Kirk Ferentz and company to like figure out like which guys are you going to put in there to be most successful.
I mean, that's the thing about college, which is kind of fun. Is like it's not like the NFL where the names are all pretty much the same, other than free agency and draft. But like, it changes. You got to have stars emerge every year. And as Farron says, your seniors have got to play their best. And, that's, we just have to see that play out. I mean, Gronowski's going to have to be good. They've been, every time, both days, what's it, that we interviewed, offensive coaches or whoever, who stood out a receiver. They kept saying the 4 seniors. I thought, I wonder if that's actually true or if that's like a little messaging, because it seemed like everyone was on the same page with that. Budmeyer was, Lester was, Ferentz was today. I asked him about Seth Anderson today, and he said, well, all 4 seniors have been good. Anderson, Gill, Weechin, and Phillips. And then, of course, there's that subgroup of Vanderzee, Parker, Bowie, and Howard, and Terrence Smith potentially. But, you got to have these seniors be good stories, and you've just got for this team to be good, they're going to have the guys like Entringer, the guys like Lutmer, Moulton, who knows, guys we don't anticipate yet being really good, being really good. That's kind of the story of this season for me, and it's going to be fun to watch. Like it feels like it's so unknown, and I feel like coming out today, you just see so many names out there that are doing good things, but you just don't know which ones are really going to do it when the games count. And that's part of the fun of it, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And someone's asking about Deshaun Lee. he didn't really do anything notable that I can recall, like in a good way or a bad way necessarily. So I don't feel like in terms of cornerback and linebacker, there was like definitive. I think, like I said, Carson Shire I thought played well, but cornerback seems like it's still going to be a toss up in terms of, it was interesting to see Rashad Godfrey be basically at this point number 3, because with TJ Hall out, Deshaun Lee, so Rashad Godfrey, but does Jalen Watson end up being that guy
Yeah,
once he's back for longer? Um,
I
I'm
feel
I'm
like
not I'm
Watson's
not
going
sure.
to be right in there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm kind of surprised Barros hasn't been more of a factor yet. Shaheed Barros.
yeah.
I finally called up the questions here, and I like this one. Why is Tyler in black and white? I don't know why.
I
I
mean,
didn't.
I think it's just bad lighting here.
It's kind of an interesting dynamic, but that was one of the user questions. Did Brevin Dahl carry the ball today? Yes, he did. He also caught a pass, and then got hit pretty hard and fumbled, but it went out of bounds. There were some issues with catching. There were some drops today, and I liked what Ferentz said after the game or after the practice that, not every throw is going to be perfect. You got to go make tough catches as a receiver. And so I think that, and he said we got to work on that in the next few weeks. And I agree. They've got enough guys at receiver, and we've heard a lot of praise about these guys, but they do have to make those catches. I thought welcome back Jared Bowie. He made a nice tough catch from somebody. I can't remember who. I'll look at my notes here. I think it was one of the backups. I think it was like an 8 or 9 yard catch on 3rd and 7. So that was it was nice to see him back. He just got back. He's been injured, banged up. Really good looking kid, like physically, but he missed the spring, has been out a little bit, so he's back. So many guys at receiver can be a factor. And to answer the left tackle question from earlier, he's rotating all 3 right now: Dotzler, Locke, and George. I talked to all 3 of them. I'm going to have a story at some point here in the coming days and weeks, whatever, before the season. And today happened to be Trevor Locke's day, where he was the number 1 left tackle. And I would say I didn't really notice him like screwing up much. I mean, I was trying to keep an eye on that stuff, but I didn't see, Max Llewellyn or whoever just blowing by all day long. I mean, yeah, the defensive line was good, but I didn't feel like the offensive line was a weakness.
Yeah. Someone else asking about Mark Gronowski's like mobility. I thought while there were times that he maybe made questionable decisions or had trouble with ball security, I thought he was moving well, and there were times where he could roll out and throw the ball away rather than rolling and throwing across his body and making a bad decision in that sense. And you would hope for a guy that's played so much college football that he would be someone capable of making good decisions. So there were some that I think that definitely need to be cleaned up in terms of his ball security. But I like it compared to someone like Cade McNamara, compared to someone like Deacon Hill. I think Mark Gronowski is going to be much more mobile in being able to extend plays, get himself out of tough situations, and make plays with his legs. Now he's not like a burner, but he's someone that could he said he likes to kind of lower his shoulder and he likes the
Yeah.
contacts, and it's like, I don't know if you want your quarterback necessarily doing that given Iowa's injury history. That's where I think you saw Brendan Sullivan kind of like really
Mm-hmm.
struggle with that, because you needed him to stay healthy, but he was just such a physical guy and such a competitor that you probably would like to see Mark Gronowski slide or go out of bounds. But he's not Lamar Jackson, but I think Mark Gronowski has the ability to extend plays, get himself out of trouble, and make plays outside of the pocket if he has to.
Unofficially, I had Seth Anderson 4 catches for 97 yards. So really good day for Seth Anderson. Definitely the number 1 receiver today. And got to mention before we go, it's been about a half hour, so we're going to wrap up here in a sec. But got to mention the special teams. Reese Dakin he said he put on, I think 15, 20 pounds. And it's added about 5 yards to his punts back in the spring. He said that in the spring. He averaged 44.1 last year, which is the exact same as Torrey Taylor did as a freshman. And today, I would say he averaged like 60. I mean, his punts were just rockets. There was one that went 80 in the air, 80 yards in the air. Now, minus the 15 snap, so it would be a 65-yard punt in the air. But there was the one that bounced and was down for what would have been a 75-yard punt, like a legit with a return man, everything. Went over KJ Parker's head, bounced 11 yards, rolled that at the 5 from his own 5. So 90 yards minus the 15, 75-yard punt. Punting looks good. Drew Stevens looked great. And then we don't know about long snapper. It's a competition.
That's right. The other guys that weren't available, Jeremiah Pittman. So that's even more. If you get him back, that's even more depth on the defensive line. No Thomas Meyer. I was interested to see him as a true freshman tight end, highly touted guy from in-state. Mason Woods was out. Terrell Washington, Kamari Moulton, Ty Hudkins, Chima Chineke. That's those guys. At least those guys were out. I'm not sure if I don't think I got everyone, but
one last comment here. Appreciate
and TJ Hall, obviously. Sorry, and TJ Hall, obviously.
Right. Bo Stevens. Just left to watch. This is from Logan. Just left to watch your Mark Gronowski practice clips. By the way, thank you, Tyler Tachman, for producing. You have a video montage of Gronowski, Brown, and Hecklinski. Are there any others I'm missing?
Right now, that's all that's up.
Okay, right that's really all you guys need to see. You don't need. It'll be a very short montage to see the Ryan Fitzgerald clips, but I know you guys probably want to see them. But anyway, Logan says, just watch your Mark Gronowski practice clips from today. Honestly, wasn't too bad. So, so I guess that's a good endorsement. But I'm just basing that off what we saw. Oh, he said, still optimistic, but I'm just basing that off what we saw from Cade last year. So, again, Kirk Ferentz seems over the moon about how Mark Gronowski is doing. And Lester is too. Really, he's really happy with those top 3 quarterbacks.
The thing about the Gronowski mishandling the snaps is like, I think the thing you can feel good about is that's so easily fixable. Like this is a guy that's played a lot of college football. If that's your most pressing issue, then I don't think that's horrible. On the other end of things, it's like, well, he's played a lot. He shouldn't be having those issues, right. But it's kind of a double-edged sword. But if we're comparing Iowa's issues at this time, or, right now compared to this time last season where it was close to a disaster performance from Cade McNamara, and there just wasn't much optimism to hold on to. Or even 2 years ago when Cade McNamara went down with that quad injury, I was in a better place now. Not perfect, but it's better than it has been the last 2 years, which at this point I think progress is – you want progress, right? It might not be – you're not going to have maybe the best quarterback in the Big Ten or top 5 or top 8, but as long as you're not in the bottom 4, that's going to be better than it has been.
Yeah. Good show, Tyler. We will be back with you Wednesday for Hawk Central. We'll who knows what we'll talk about. We just talked about everything today, but we'll find something. We'll find 48 good minutes, I promise. So thanks, buddy. Thanks, Dargan, for producing. Oh, by the way, Kate Harpring unfortunately committed to North Carolina. Sorry to leave you guys with that little women's basketball tidbit. But for Dargan Southern, for Tyler Tachman, this is Chad Leistikow. Thanks for joining us on YouTube. We'll talk to you Wednesday.